Welcome to the AI Unveil podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Swapnil Jain, founder and CEO of Observe.AI, an AI platform for contact centers. Welcome, Swapnil.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Well, to kick things off, can you give us a brief summary of what Observe.AI does?
Yeah. Observe.AI is a contact center AI company. We help large enterprises who have large customer service and contact centers. So think, your large banks and large telecom companies who have large call centers and you have human agents there who are doing customer service. We help those enterprises use AI to get more out of their contact center, right? So what we do for them is we have voice AI agents which can help them automate certain calls, right? So you don't need humans for simple calls. AI agents can take those. We provide AI co-pilots to human agents so they can do their job better and faster. And then we help these call centers analyze massive amounts of data that's being generated in the call center. We all remember that when we call a bank, we hear your call is being recorded for quality and training. Those calls are recorded and then analyzed by us, right? So we help all these contact centers with different use cases across the spectrum with eventual goal to get more out of it, either more revenue or reduce the cost from your contact center.
When was the company founded?
Yeah, it's funny. We are a pre-LLM company in a way. So we started in 2017, and I'll tell you a funny story. So this is like a year ago when ChatGPT was out and everyone was talking about we are an AI company. We are an AI company. So I was telling somebody, hey, we are Observe.AI and we do this. They're like, so did you become an AI company this year or you were always an AI company? I'm like, I don't know what that means. But so we were always an AI company, started in 2017. It's been roughly 7.5 years in operations. We work with 300 plus customers. We work with people like DoorDash, Pearson, Public Storage, Cox, and the likes. Roughly 350 people in the company, Series C venture-backed investors like SoftBank, Menlo, and obviously you guys as well.
Yeah, amazing. And, AI contact center and AI support more broadly is a very hot topic right now with lots of new companies, and hence the question. And before you started Observe AI, can you tell us a bit about your background and what was the aha moment? If that was pre-LLM, of course, but what was the aha moment that inspired you to start the company?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I don't come from a contact center or customer support background. So my background is I'm a software engineer by background. I did my bachelor's in computer science. I worked at Twitter in San Francisco here for 3 years. And then 2012 to 2015, I was at Twitter. And then 2015, I had a lot of FOMO because all my friends were starting companies in India. So I decided to move back to India to go back and start a company in India. And I spent 18 months in India trying to figure out an idea to start a company. At one point, I wanted to start an insurance company. So I became an insurance agent and started selling insurance policies to just learn more about insurance and realized it's not for me. And then I thought I'll create the new American Express. So then I applied for every single credit card in India. At one point, I had 20 credit cards and all of them were calling me for payments. So, then eventually decided, no, credit card is also not a thing for me. And I eventually realized it's B2B SaaS for me. That's where my passion is. And then I was really excited about speech. So in 2017, even though, LLM was not really a thing, speech was taking off, right? Deep learning was coming up and it was clear that the machine's understanding of speech, human speech is getting better. So we were very clear that we wanted to start a company in the speech space. And, our friends told us that, in Manila, you have these large call centers and massive amounts of agents. So we decided to just go there, right? So I spent 6 months in Philippines in Manila. And I would go and visit these call centers and I would just sit in them, kind of watch what people are doing, right? So I would just look at an agent, look at what they're doing day in the life, look at a manager, a supervisor. And that's where I got the aha moment. So my aha moment was not through technology. My aha moment was through a business problem, a customer problem, a user problem. And then, of course, obviously now we're talking about AI and LLM and ChatGPT and whatnot. But my aha moment came from seeing these people and seeing how hard their job is. And they really need better, upgraded AI-first software to do their job better and faster.
Awesome. I mean, this as an experienced operator, but two things. One is, you really have to obsess about the problem. And the problem remains the same, right? The core psychology, while the technology can change. So it's awesome that you are living and breathing. And in a way, all those credit card company calls and insurance company calls probably also gave you some experience of the contact center experience.
That too.
Well, since you mentioned Manila, right? Let's start with the big picture, right? In 2 years, what percentage of support calls or calls to a contact center, Manila being a huge BPO, right? But what percentage do you think will be fully automated by AI?
I think you asked 2 years. It'll be hard for me to pinpoint to 2 or 3. But if you just ask me a more general question, in the next 5 years, roughly what percentage? I would say confidently 50% or more of customer service calls could be automated by technology. I think we will see that. I do not believe that transformation will happen in year 1 or year 2, because many enterprises, I often tell my board that I'm living two world, right? So the one world I live in is the Bay Area, Silicon Valley frenzy world, which is AI agents coming, AI agents are coming for jobs, and the world. It's either a very dystopian view or a very utopian view, right? So there is that world, and the other world I live in is like the knowing the nitty gritties of an enterprise world, right? So when I talk to my customers, I show them like, hey, here's any agent. They're like, so cool. Let's talk about how will it be deployed. And they're like, oh shit, I still have this on-premise tool it needs to integrate, which doesn't have API. So first I need to move that on-premise to cloud, and then I can do this. And I'm like, you are years out before you can leverage technologies like this. Right. But if I were to broadly speak, in the next 5 years, I do expect 50% or more calls and chats that our human agents are doing today should be automated by AI agents for sure.
And do you see a big chasm between, humans have L1, right? Level 1 support, and then you have specialist support. In fact, just today I was on a support chat where I was escalated to a level 2 support.
Yeah.
Not a great experience. I won't name the company, but that's fine, right?
Maybe you should tell me after that so I can reach out to them to help.
I'll tell you, and it's definitely not an Observe customer. I can tell you that, right? But so is there, as you think about AI, on one hand, yes, you've got the enterprise workflows that need to be sorted out, and that'll add some friction. So maybe it's not 2 years, maybe it's 5 years. But on the other end, when it comes to the core intelligence itself, do you think there is a kind of broad distinction between L1, level 1 support tasks, right, which are quite a lot more repetitive, and level 2, which can get quite complex? And I ask because even humans are structured that way. So I wonder how you view AI being structured that way, or how, will it be uniform, or do you think there's a big difference between those two types of problems?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The way we segment sort of the kind of queries or kind of things that people are reaching out to contact centers and customer service, right, is through the spectrum of, are these knowledge-based queries, are these personalized knowledge-based queries, and are these workflow-based queries? So what I mean by that is oftentimes, you reach out to an e-commerce company and say, hey, what's the refund policy? Now, that refund policy is not unique to Gaurav, not unique to me, not unique to Sam Altman. That's a refund policy for the company, right? That's a good example of like a basic knowledge query, right? You can call it an L1, right? The second level of query is, which is like still a information query, which is you're reaching out and saying, hey, I'm Gaurav, I placed an order, when will it be delivered? You're not changing anything. You're just asking information for which is personal to you, which will be different from my order and your order. And the third is like, I want to cancel my order, right? And that gets into more complexity. So we segment customer queries. So we go to a customer and we say, give us all your data. We'll mine all the data again using AI. We'll come up with this score called automation rubric score, where we say, you know what, these are the queries which are perfect for automation right now, which are more knowledge based and personalized knowledge based. And then there's a set which is more complex, requires tools integrations, requires you to integrate with 5 other systems, requires you to train policies to the AI. And maybe that's a phase 2, right? So that's our segmentation of L1 and L2, like knowledge versus action, right? You separate out the two.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's kind of personalization and action taking, which is A, more complex, but B, probably has higher risk involved as well, right?
That is
We've all
absolutely
heard
correct.
about the airline company that gave away a bunch of tickets for free, right?
Yes.
So going back to, let's say in the next 3 to 5 years, 50% plus will be automated. Now, when you look at the BPO industry, right, whether it's in Philippines and India as well, it's a two-parter. What impact do you think we'll have on these human heavy, services heavy industries?
What's going to happen to the BPO? I do think they will all be very badly devastated in the next 5 years. I think we already saw this starting happen last year with some of the largest public BPOs. We're hit really hard in the public market, right? Because of the fact that, AI agents are going to continue, and then you don't need that many human agents, right? So we started seeing that transformation starting happen last year, and I do expect that to continue. And BPOs, if their primary business is selling human agents, they're going to have a very, very tough time because they are at the receiving end of AI agents. An enterprise, let's say, who has 10,000 agents, 10,000 human agents, has been using a BPO, now doesn't need that many agents, and then they can do their job with 6,000 human agents, and then the enterprise is happy because they've reduced the cost. But on the receiving end is the BPO whose revenue has gone down significantly, right? So I do expect that BPOs need to figure out a different strategy than just selling people and human agents.
Agent, you mean support agents specifically?
Yeah, support agents, human agents,
I
right?
did not know
BPO,
that. Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
It's not that commonly known fact because they've done a very good job of trying to project themselves as an IT services company, right? So that's the transformation many BPOs have to go through if they have to survive, right? Otherwise, they're in a very let's call it a recession industry. They are at an industry which is going to decline year on year, right? And we're already seeing some companies, right? I'll give you a good example. I don't know if you saw T-Mobile came out openly and said they have a $100 million partnership with OpenAI. And the number one use case is to reduce the number of agents. If T-Mobile is successful in doing so, guess what's going to happen to the BPO who works with T-Mobile and their revenue? It's going to shrink significantly. So if BPOs have to survive, they have to transform and get out of just this like human business.
One potential thing we hear a lot about and kind of a trend is the services of software or AI first services. So do you think as you look out of this industry, is it going to be software solutions deployed by the customer, the enterprises, the T-Mobiles? Or do you think there's an opportunity for BPOs to say, yeah, well, no, we're still going to do it end to end. Now, our gross margin is going to go from 30 to 80% because we're AI first.
Yes.
How do you think that shapes out?
So I actually strongly do not believe that the whole concept of software as a service or AIization of services industry is applicable for customer service and contact centers. Let me explain that. I mean, it's a big fad going around, service as a software trend going around, right? Where the idea is the services company, mostly outsourced services company, can transform themselves with better software and then get to better margins. So everyone is talking about, legal. You have these legal firms, they can do a better job by bringing in AI agents and then improve their margins. So to understand the distinction on the contact center side, you have to take a step back and understand the broader spectrum of outsourced service industry. So there's two broad spectrum. On one side, you have outsourcing function where you really, really do not care about what your sort of outsourcer is doing on their side. You only care about the outcome. So let me give you an example. If you're using a law firm to do your legal, do you care about what software they're using? Do you care about where they hire their people from? Do you care about how they train their people? Do you care about how much they pay their people? Do you care about when they work? Just don't care about anything. You just tell them, I need a legal document, and they give you back. I need red lines, and they give you back, right? So in cases like these, when to whoever you're outsourcing, they have full control over the technology stack and the delivery model because the customer only cares about the outcome. So you can have this service as a software model in those industries. But in customer service and contact center, that's not the case. If I am T-Mobile and I hire a BPO to do my customer service, I dictate all the terms of how customer service is to be done. It's my policies. It's my product. I tell you the timing of my agents. I tell you the salary of what you need to pay my agents. I tell you what to do in the interview process of those agents, right? And then on top of that, I tell you the entire software stack. So when that is dictated by the enterprise, who is outsourcing, how can an outsourcer evolve themselves to become agentic? Because it's not their decision. It's the enterprise decision. So they can't really transform themselves and improve their margins because the enterprise is not going to let them do that. Enterprise is going to do that, not the outsourcer. So I do not believe the whole service as a software applies to customer service and contact center.
I think that's a great point. That's a great insight. First of all, we love hot takes, so that's fantastic. Second, another word for this is outcome as a service, right? There are so many acronyms it's kind of getting. And what you're saying is even today, it's not an outcome-based model in the support world because the customer isn't just relying on outcome. So how can it become outcome of a service if it isn't outcome as a service today, right? In a non-AI world.
That is very aptly put. That is the model itself is not outcome-based. The model is an effort-based model. In an effort-based model, you can't convert it to what we've been talking about, right? So you have to first convert it to outcome. Now, there are some use cases in the customer service industry which is more outcome-based. So, for example, lead gen, which is where like just generate leads for me. In that case, I really don't care what you do, how many times you're calling people and all of that. Debt collection, I just care about how much debt you collect. I don't care about anything else. So there are some niches in the contact center customer service, which is more outcome-based, and you can transform that to a high gross margin, agentic world, but otherwise not really.
Yeah, it's a great. And look, I think that most outcome based are back office type of stuff, right? You do it on the outcome. This is as front office as it gets. This directly impacts the brand. And then you are contact center centric, which I perceive to be voice centric. What are your thoughts around the kind of convergence of voice, chat, text, especially in an AI first world?
Yeah. So just outright, like we're actually not just voice only, we're actually omni-channel. So we are voice, chat, and email. Contact center is the omni-channel term, right? So but the history itself, you're right, is call center, which is like call, as the name suggests, right? That you want it to be calls only. Over time, this has evolved into, okay, there's going to be chat, and there's some element of email, right? Today,
Yeah.
predominantly, I would say 75% of customer service interactions are voice. About 20-ish% is chat, and roughly 5% is email and Twitter and other channels. Interestingly, there are two things we see in the channel decision. One is chat is good for channels where uh, your interaction is in the moment. So, for example, let's on your phone you have these DoorDash and Uber and Lyft and your Verizon, right? These are the places where you have the app. You would go for chat. It's in the moment experience. You're waiting for your Uber and you want to chat. You're
Yeah.
waiting for your DoorDash delivery. You want to do a chat. You're waiting for Lyft. You want to do a chat, right? Same for gaming industry. So there are certain industries where we see more chat than voice, but rest everybody else is actually 100% voice. You're not going to see a lot of chat in other channels. And lastly, we're also seeing a trend now slowly, which voice AI getting better, and
Yeah.
people being able to do voice at a cheaper cost. People are saying, do I really need chat, or is it just like voice all alone? Because one of the key reasons why people move to chat is what actually cost. So just to give you context, on average, a voice interaction done by human agent is roughly $10. A chat is $3.
Yeah.
And then as a human agent, I can do parallel 3 chats, and voice, I can
Yeah.
only do 1 call. So while it was
Yeah.
as much as consumer preferences, it was a business decision to reduce cost and keep moving to a lower cost channel like a chat. But it's never taken off because consumers don't want that. So there's a high chance that with voice AI agents and AI getting cheaper, we might see a significant shift more and more towards voice and less about chat
Trend
going forward.
towards voice, because now the cost delta in an AI first world
Yeah.
doesn't exist, or is at least not significant like it is in a human centric world.
Yep.
And ironically, in your world, agents is actually human agents. So, what does
Yeah.
agentic AI mean to you? And is that a leapfrogging of technology that's available to improve your product?
I do think so. I do think so. I think the way we think about agentic, right, is in twofold. So, one is it has a direct implication on our industry, and then second is a direct implication of how we build software. So the way we think about agentic is not just about for context center transformation, but about the user experience itself. So up until now, what we have seen from a user experience perspective, user experience has been click in UI, right? You want to generate a report, what do? You go to Salesforce, you click this, click here, click here, click here, click here, and then a report comes out, right? With Agentic, you can actually get rid of all of this and move to a different sort of human machine interface where it's more agentic. I'm sure we all must have seen the examples of like generate me a report of all the leads from yesterday, all the leads that did convert or converted or whatever you want, right? And that's one key part of what we believe in. It's going to fundamentally transform, right? Agentic is going to transform the human computer interface, and we're going to see that in SaaS applications a lot. So what
Yeah.
we're doing there is we're transforming all of our products and trying to move as much away from this click and UI model to a more agents. Everything should be an agent. Every component of our products should be an agent. So that's sort of like one big shift we are seeing in our business, right? The second shift is now, well, the agentic technology actually can make voice AI agents really, really powerful, which is a direct implication on our industry because now you don't need too many human agents. And voice AI agents and chat AI agents can automate customer service. And that technology, so, chatbots and voice bots are not new. Chatbots have existed for a long time. Facebook launched this in 2005. They called it Messenger M or something like that, right? So technology the concept has been out for a long time, but traditional technologies like NLU and NLP were like really, really terrible, like shitty, I would say, including Google Dialogflow. They were like terrible. And that's why the current form of chatbots and voice bots that we interface with today, for example, are really bad.
Yeah.
They're fragile in nature. Anytime you ask a wrong question, it fails. You're always yelling agent, agent, agent. You're always saying supervisor, supervisor. Why is that? That is because that traditional technology was really bad. And now with agentic AI, it fundamentally changes. And now you can create amazing conversational AI systems, voice bots, chat
Yeah.
bots in much, much lesser time and with amazing experiences. So yes, there is a huge impact of agentic AI in contact center industry and observe as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, what I've observed is any application or domain where the product has multi-step workflows, which is
Yeah,
dialog flow, right? Um, is rule based, and rule based. The problem is you can only specify n so many permutations or
yeah,
combinations, right? And I actually, one of the product design patterns I like to see in products is actually not having this nice UI which looks like this with workflows, because it actually should be much more of a human knowledge base kind of thing. And I think that's
yeah,
exactly what you're explaining. Awesome. Maybe
absolutely.
let's talk a little bit about the product. This is a good segue, right? So you have three products. Maybe I'll let you talk about kind of the post, the real time, and the agents.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll tell you about why we build these products the way they're built, right? And I'll get to the three products. So our philosophy is, I mean, we're all talking about AI agents are going to take over, and AI agents will do a lot of customer service interactions. We believe in that too, right? But we also believe in a world where 5 years later you will have a lot of simpler queries, simpler sort of customer service calls and chat should be automated by AI. But we do believe there will be a part of conversations will be done by human agents. I think you just gave an example today, right? There'll be a lot more complex conversations. There'll be conversations which are sensitive in nature. There are conversations which will require human empathy, right? So we do see a hybrid world. We see a world which is about voice AI agents doing a lot of the queries, and then human agents still in the job handling more complex queries, right? So we support both. We support that world, right? So we have voice AI agents product, which is agent take AI agents, which can take your calls for you as a customer service center, right? You come in and you say, hey, you know what? I get these 20% of my calls, which are simpler, easier, doesn't require too much complexity, does not have sensitivity. I think AI can automate that. So we go ahead, we work with our customers, and then we automate that. And the way it shows up for a consumer is when you call your bank, you would first talk to a machine, and the machine will try to resolve your query. So that's sort of like first product. That's the newest product. The second product is, now we do believe there will be complex calls coming to human agents, and we want to empower them again with AI, right? So we have an AI co-pilot, a real-time AI co-pilot, which listens to the call in real time. So imagine a customer and an agent are talking. The AI is listening to the call as it's happening. It is transcribing the call. It's using LLM to understand what the customer is saying, what the human agent is saying, making sense of it, and then guiding the human agent on what to say, what not to say, what actions to take, how to best resolve the query, summarizing the conversation. It's almost like my assistant for me,
Yeah.
right? So human agents can do a better job. And finally, our third product is, there's a lot of data collected in these call centers, the voice AI calls, the human calls. Today, businesses are not looking at this data to understand the customer experience, the agent experience, compliance, any of that. Where we come in is we mine all this data, both the AI agent calls and the human agents calls, to understand
That's a
the
good point.
performance, the quality, the experience, and help the business iterate this, because it's not a one and done process where I launch a voice AI agents and I'm off. Right? You got to iterate it, you got to monitor it, you got to quality it, and that's where a third product, post interaction analytics and insights, comes into picture. So all of this is sort of what we offer. The stack is all in house. So we use our own spatial text engines, our own sort of call them like SLMs, and we also partner with the large LLM providers, right? All on cloud for enterprise customers.
Yeah. So I think the world you view is of not everything will be automated because there'll be complex queries, and that's why you have the two products, the autonomous agents and the assist, right, or assistants. And then what you're saying is the analytics you require nonetheless, right? Which makes
Yes.
sense to me. That having said, I would imagine that a good, since you started in 2017, right, and I'm going to be direct, that some percentage of your business, a non-insignificant, is based on seats for humans,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is declining. So, as a CEO, how much does that keep you up at night? How much is it important to get that balance just right? How much could it potentially impede innovation because of the classic innovator's dilemma?
It is huge. I mean, it is very, very big, right? Like, so if we don't innovate, and if we don't, build technology that the voice AI agents technology, and only rely on the concept that we're going to build software to help humans, and then to your point, over the time humans are going to reduce, we are in a declining business, right? We are in an industry which is declining. We are selling on seats which are declining over time, right? So it is a huge innovator's dilemma for us to say, well, how should we manage? And I think our position is we have decided to disrupt ourselves, right?
Yeah.
The decision we had to make was, should we disrupt ourselves or should we wait to be disrupted? And we said,
Yeah.
no, we're going to disrupt ourselves. So we are
Nice.
very okay today in going to our customers and saying, if you're paying me $1 million for my human seat products, you can actually keep paying me that $1 million. I don't have, you don't have to pay me more. I'm willing to move the seat money that you've given me to AI agent money because I care more about that AI agent money. I don't want to
Yeah.
give that AI agent money to anybody else, right?
Yeah.
Because I do know that all of you will implement AI agents and then come and tell me that, oh, shoot, I need to reduce my seats because I've automated. I want to be the
Yeah.
one who automates my own seats and then reduces my
Awesome.
revenue from my human products. And that is completely okay. So we have taken a hard
Yeah.
call that we're okay cannibalizing sort of our human products if we need to, but we are going all in on voice AI. We believe on that.
Aw-
We are going to disrupt ourselves before someone else disrupts us.
Awesome. And look, the good news for you is you've got a kind of treasure trove of data, which is its data is absolutely
Yes.
oil to do autonomous. I think the way I look at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you'll probably make far more money per call in an autonomous world, right, than in an assist world, right? And it's actually going to not be seat based, it's probably going to be consumption, but probably already is consumption based. And then maybe the third thing, and again, I hope I'm not putting words into your mouth, but Microsoft, Satya Nadella just talk about Javon's paradox. I actually think in the support industry, as the support experience cost gets lower and the experience is at the same level, you'll actually see support calls or chat messages increase because it's a great brand developer, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's something you think about or you want to react to that, but I do think the Javon's
Yeah.
paradox absolutely applies here because this is such a brand building and customer trust building avenue for companies.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'll give you a specific example from a customer. So recently we engaged with a large technology company. They are in media subscription business, right? And they have so far treated their customer service center as a transactional center. Somebody
Yeah.
reaches out saying, I can't log in. Okay, I'll help you log in. Hey, my credit card didn't go through. Okay, I'll help you credit card. Oh, please cancel my plan. I'll cancel your plan, right? And now they're like, you know what? AI agents can do some things for me. So they have come to us and said, take my simpler queries, put them on AI agents, and I'm going to take my same amount of human agents, or I'm going to add more. And they are going back and changing the core product to allow customers to reach out to the customer support center from more places now. So what they're saying is we actually can increase our ACV and do more cross sell and upsell if we allow our customers to talk to our human agents in more ways and in more frequent places in the product. But that is only
Nice.
possible if I can automate my simpler queries using AI agents. So that is exactly
Yeah.
what you said. Up until now, because the cost was so high, it was seen as a cost center. But now
Yeah.
I can actually transform into a revenue center and convert it to a this is a very famous large company transforming the contact center to be they precisely call it to do acquisition, cross sell, because they now have multiple products, and retention, which was not possible
Yeah.
before. So I think we are seeing some of that today as well. And this is the other thing, right? Like this happened during COVID as well. Even though, so that's the other side of the problem, right? Like even though we all talk about human agents going down and AI has been there for a long time, right? This whole journey of customers automating their calls and queries, right, is not a new phenomena, right? You have to imagine that some of the largest brands and companies in the world were not waiting for AI agents to happen to automate their support. They have been at it for a while. They've spent millions and millions of dollars to do this, right? So, some of the largest e-commerce companies, the biggest e-commerce companies, the second biggest e-commerce companies, right, who all we talk to all the time, right? They have even reached 90% automation. So there is a case to be built, which is, where are we going to see the reduction in agents then? Are we going to say 90 is going to go to 95? Or no, they have done every inch of automation possible in the customer service center. The other thing that's happening is, in general, because the business to human, business to consumer sort of engagement is moving virtual, the need for contact center is higher. So let me give you an example. Maybe if you go to 20 years ago, you would engage with every business that you engage with in person. You go to a Verizon
Yeah.
store, you go to bank, you would go to buy grocery, you would stop a taxi. there's no virtual interaction. But now, if all your interactions are virtual, you're buying groceries on Instacart, you're ordering Uber, you're ordering food on DoorDash, you're doing banking online, there's a higher need for a contact center, because there's no other way a business can interact with you. So we're also seeing that trend. The more and more, online is happening, the more and more e-commerce is happening, the more and more digital is happening. There's a need for higher contact center. So I think we are going to see this interesting phenomena where, on one end, the need for business to human is going to grow. The other end, business will use the opportunity to use the contact center in a more strategic way, converting it to a revenue center. And then the AI agents will come on top of that, right? So it will be an interesting sort of like conundrum where, on one side, AI agents will try to reduce the number of agents, human agents. On the other side, you will see that just the business need of human agents getting more, right? So it will be interesting to see where this lands.
Yeah. And, as you were saying that, I was the Uber and the taxi and the case of not going into the shop. I was going to say, but, they don't have to really call even an AI agent, because they just click on a button on their app to hail it.
Yep.
So some of it won't be in the quote unquote support space. But then I'm also thinking out loud, saying, actually, maybe the boundaries between what you do on a website and what you do on a quote unquote agent are just not that obvious. I could see someone, I don't know, one of our portfolio companies saying, I'm not going to really have a website anymore with a bunch of pages. All it's going to be is a little chatbot kind of thing, right? Like, so that maybe boundaries are getting a little bit more mushy, let's call it. Let's switch gears a little bit, right? All of this underpins great quality of the AI, otherwise nothing works.
Yeah.
And of course, the trend line is that's improving significantly, right? But at Observe.AI, what does your team do to measure and manage the accuracy of AI agents, which are fundamentally non-deterministic?
Yeah. So it's a great point, right? And I think it's also a big education point for a lot of our customers, right? When they think about chatbots and voice bots, and when we show them the so-called new AI agents, right? There's always this education where I have to tell them that it's agentic and there's runtime reasoning involved, and it's not a deterministic system. It's not that you write a prompt in a certain way, right? You're instructing the AI agents in a certain way. The AI agent is going to precisely follow that. That's not how it works. So we do see that on the customer side. Now, what do we do on the Observe side, right? So we do it in two phases, right? So one, we do it in the building phase, and then other is the monitoring phase, right? So during the building phase, right, when we build out an agent, we have a testing framework, right? Which has, I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm launching a voice AI agents to schedule appointments. Right. I have two flavors of testing. One is the conversational part of it. So I tested with against all kinds of personalities. I'll say a 60-year-old woman from Midwest, a 70-year-old person from New York, a 39-year-old person from San Francisco, a 25-year-old from Dallas, right? In a thick accent, a kibosh accent, or, the New Yorker fast accent with a lot of background noise of the street and, a silent background, all sorts of things. So we have these conversational scenarios that we test against, right? And then we test against what was the LLM supposed to do and what did it do that or not, right? So even though you're making the agent and it's more unstructured in nature, right? You still want agents to execute some actions. So we basically measure if the agent did the action or not, right? And so these are the two ways where at the building time you're iterating fast. And the most interesting thing is, it's a meta point, but even the testing is an AI agent, right? So we actually use an AI agent to build a test framework to test the main AI agent, because we're like, let's the AI agent fight each other, right? And then a third AI agent, which is like, look at the summary of this and tell me how should I fix the first AI agent. So that's the point. Just going back to when we spoke about, how does agentic transform, right? It's beautiful when you can really, really start questioning that. How can I make this an agent? And if you question this every single day, like how can every single thing be an agent? You come up with this beautiful product where you have all these like interconnected agents who are actually doing most of the job, and you're just sitting here and watching. Oh, this agent was evaluated by this agent. Now this agent looked at the result and is recommending what to change in the previous agent. I'm like, Vani, like this is amazing.
Yeah.
Right? You see some of those crazy things
look,
happen.
I'm a firm believer that as humans, our job is going to go into kind of really supervisory mode, right? In so many different use cases. Out of curiosity, are you using any third-party eval and kind of guardrails framework, or is this all homegrown, this kind of testing suite?
All homegrown for our set of use cases. Right? So we have been at it for a while. So I think That's the strong foundation of Observe. So we started working on LLMs in 2019 when BERT came out, Google BERT,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being at the top of things since then, both with LLM and then now agentic and eval frameworks and so on and so forth, right? So we've
And you
been
talked
working
about
on this.
BERT. Previously, you talked about SLMs or small language models and LLMs. Can you maybe talk a little bit about kind of which foundational models do you use
Yeah,
and where in the stack do you kind of just rely on the foundational models and where in the
yeah.
stack or kind of which part of the logic do you need to have business domain or maybe customer specific proprietary logic that you innovate on?
No, absolutely. So I'll give you a meta framework and then we'll jump into the specific examples. Right? So a meta framework is if you we always start with the foundation model, no matter what. And the reason for that is in the beginning of any product development or anything that you're building, your first priority is product market fit.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't matter, right? So you need faster iteration, right?
Yeah.
You just want to put something out in front of the customer and see if this lands, right? That's a
Yeah.
bigger priority than anything else. You don't worry about cost. You don't worry about security, no
Right.
privacy. Like, is this even going to work? Do I really care about it? So whenever we start any product, it's always starts with the foundation model. Let's
Yeah.
go and use OpenAI. Let's go and use Anthropic. Let's go and use all these systems, right? So we start there, and then once we've validated, okay, you know what, this is a good use case. We'll provide value to our customers. We'll increase our what we can get from our customers. All of that is when we say, okay, now let's do some analysis to say, okay, is it secure? Does the price justify the ROI? Do we really need a large language model for this use case, or should we just be a SLM, right? And so all those considerations come into picture, right? So it's not one size fits all, but the starting is always a foundation model, and then bunch of let's call it considerations, and then you decide, should we stick with OpenAI or Anthropic, or should we go build a smaller model in house?
Yeah, and I'm guessing in some cases for a particular use case, you use a combination. It just kind of either because you want them to compete with each other and it's not cost sensitive, or there's a
Absolutely.
multi-step process in an agentic
Absolutely.
framework.
We don't think of ourselves as an AI company, actually, from that perspective. We don't claim that we are the best LLM providers. That's not our business. Our business is
Yeah,
we take the best in class technologies and help solve problems in the customer service center using our domain knowledge and all the workflows and everything that we've built on top of that. That's
yeah.
Observe strength.
So more like you're not a kind of AI foundational model company, but you're an AI application company, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want to kind of switch gears and not talk about AI for the next couple of questions. I believe a good percentage of your product engineering design team is based out of India, right? So maybe elaborate a bit on that and some of the opportunities and challenges, right? I believe most of your customer base is in the US, 12-hour time difference and all that, right? So organizationally, how do you kind of make sure that customer centricity exists, and what are the kind of benefits and opportunities?
Yeah, so I think we took a very conscious decision from day one in the company that we will have a big part of our engineering team back in India, right? So we have roughly 200 people back in India, engineering, machine learning, AI, product management, design, all sorts of people. And I think I would say it has worked for us very, very well, right? And I think the reason it worked very well for us is we started with the leadership. So we got a phenomenal co-founder and chief scientist back in India, right, who has decades of experience in AI, who was very well known in AI in India, right? I would say in the top 5 people who are doing real AI work in India, his name would be there. So that made it very easy for us to attract the talent, right? So that became sort of a talent magnet for us, and we were able to build an amazing team. And I can confidently say, in terms of applied AI in India, we would be the number one. I mean, there's a lot of things happen in India, but when it comes to hey, real people building real AI that real customers are using, Observe will be number one at the top right there. Right. So that has worked well for us. We've been able to hire. It is a competitive environment, to be frank, right? So Bangalore is, in my mind, more competitive than Bay Area and Silicon Valley, right? Lot of
Wow.
Bay Area companies, right? So over the years, right, companies like Coinbase, Rippling, Atlassian, Stripe, everyone is now in Bangalore, right? So we're all competing with these now there too, right? So it's been a competitive environment, but we've been very, very fortunate to have built a good business. Now, coming to the downsides of it, right? It is hard. It is hard because of the time zone difference, right? So
Yeah.
someone has to burn the midnight oil, right? So oftentimes the teams in India are a week late at night, especially if we have a customer meeting, especially if they're talking to the go-to-market teams, right? That's the cons. I think to your point of voice of the customer and customer understanding, right? It is slightly hard, right? But then we have built a bunch of processes around that, right? So we make sure that there's some people from India office who are always in the Bay Area and visiting customers every quarter. We have sessions where our go-to-market teams talk about our customer stories, openly to the engineering teams. We do frequent all hands. Every win story with a customer is published internally on a common Slack channel that engineers have access to. Right. So there's a bunch of ways you build around so that our engineering teams and product management teams have a deep customer understanding and they're close to the customer. And then finally, from an upside perspective, there's a cost advantage to it as well.
Yeah, slightly diminishing cost advantage, but nonetheless, it's nice to be in the business of conversational intelligence to help dissipate the intelligence of customer conversations throughout the enterprise.
Yep.
Look, you've come a long way. So first, congratulations, and at Next 47, we're so happy to be a small part of this journey. As you scale to a company with over 300 customers now, enterprise customers, right, and hundreds of employees, what are some of the biggest lessons that you like to share to the audience, especially of your maybe personal growth as the company has been growing?
So I'm a big believer in selling and then building. So I always tell my team, right? Like people ask me, like, is the product ready? I'm like, I don't know. Put it in front of the customer and they will tell it's ready or not, right? And if it's not, they will force us to build the best product. So I'm a big believer in customer-led product building, right? I'm a big believer in just put it out there, right? And then the customer will force us to build the best product in the best timeline. If we internally think of the best product in the best timeline, it will take years, right? So I'm a big believer in using our customers and them as a forcing function to build the best products. Second thing, I think more personally for me, I think, and again, and not that I'm doing a great job of that necessarily, but it's evolving myself. It's just continuously evolving. What is my role as a CEO? Right? I ask myself this question almost every week. When I sit down on Friday, I'm looking at my laptop and calendar. I'm like, what am I doing? What's my role? I'm not doing anything functionally, right? I'm not running marketing, sales, engineering. So what exactly do I do, right? And that changes almost every 6 months, right? And I have to evolve. I have to continue to push myself if this company has to keep growing. It's just impossible. So I think that's the other thing that I feel has been.
I think that introspection is such a key quality in leaders. So I'm glad you're thinking through that. But I'm going to push you on. What do you think has evolved in the last 6 months or in the last 12 months? What has been one or two things that you've really had to evolve on?
I have become way more intense. So none of my meetings are easy now. And there's been big transformation I've been working on myself, that now I just push my team to the limits, that we have to be the best, right? I think I was reading this post yesterday, right, which was really interesting, which said that in venture, right, there's actually just two outcomes. One is the company is massive success, or there's nothing else. So when you think about that world, right, and the massive success is like 5% of the companies, you start thinking that a good company doesn't mean anything. What's the point of a good company if it is not a great company? There's only great companies and there's everyone else. You might as well shut down, then continue to grow at 20%, 30%. What's the point of that, right? And that realization had struck a big chord with me in the last 6 to 12 months, that either we are great or we are not, right? And if we are not, then, doesn't really matter actually, right?
Yeah.
So I've become way more intense. I've become way more aggressive. I've become way more ambitious, right, in pushing this company to be that great company.
Yeah. Well, from the sidelines, we can see some of that greatness shine through. And as the company embraces the new opportunity, the expanded TAM, but also disruption, good luck. But we're also excited to see all the opportunities. I typically ask this to everyone, but this is even more relevant for you, given the post I saw on LinkedIn you had a couple of days ago. I particularly asked, where can people find you? But I'm going to change this question a little bit to say, your post, how many Observe.AI-ish named companies are there that you're aware of that have recently raised? And then where can I actually find you and not find those other 2 or 3 companies?
Yeah, so it's actually very funny, Gaurav. So there's 3 of them. So just, it'll take some time. So we are Observe.
Okay, great.
We are Observe.AI. All right. There's a company called Observe Inc. Right.
Yeah.
They don't have AI, but they have Observe. There's third company that we discovered yesterday. It's Observe.AI. So the only difference between us and them is E versus O, and I don't know why they chose that. So now there's 3 companies which all are like Observe.AI, Observe.AI. It's just like all the same, right? And we keep getting, emails for people who think we are one of them, and I'm sure they get some of our emails and stuff like that, right? But it's very, very funny. So I put a post on LinkedIn yesterday saying, like, I tagged the 2 CEOs. I'm like, we all should talk actually and figure this out, so that we don't confuse and keep increasing our SEO spend in trying to optimize for the name.
Yeah, don't bid on each other's keywords. Well, it's funny because you're not competitors. Just for clarity, it's Observe.AI. I think you've got the best name out of it. And it's there were a few companies I've talked to recently that just changed their domain to .ai. And it's good that you've had that since 2017, I believe, or since the early days.
Yeah,
So,
that's the case.
Swapnil, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for all the insights. I've really, really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for having me.